We are here having talks on God with my friend David. Thank you, David, again for today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I dressed up for you today, so I hope it has an influence on our conversation, that it makes it.
I'm just totally distracted.
It's all about the collar. Today, I would like for you to expand and expound on unhappiness as a catalyst. And by unhappiness, I mean just my experience, the experience that I'm having right now. We can quickly tell, do I feel good? Do I feel bad? Am I happy? Am I not happy? And then also catalyst, like as in like the change agent that makes either two things become a different thing or helps us to transition, like that kind of thing. And how does that fit together?
Yeah, what made me think of that as a subject is I heard a radio host that was talking about, he's got kids and they're I guess in their late teens, maybe early 20s, and all three of them in the past 6 months have come to him and talked about suicide.
Wow.
And he's a good guy, he's a Christian guy. He's doing his best on the radio to try to make the world a better place. Has faith in God. And I'm thinking, then I heard other people saying it's just like epidemic right now. People are so unhappy. So I thought, well, that would be a good topic to talk about. But I think the best way to talk about it is from the highest perspective of unhappiness as a catalyst. And so I think from the highest perspective, the way the system is designed to work is the closer our frequency is to our native state, divinity, the more joyful we are.
Yeah.
And the further we get away from it, the more painful it is. So I think that's where the very, very simple analogy that was given to simple people to get them moving in the right direction is, oh, you do the right thing, you'll go to heaven. Do the wrong thing, live a bad life, go to hell, where you're in pain all the time forever, right? Okay, well, that's not quite how it works, but it's a simple analogy, maybe designed to help move you in the right direction or trap you.
And so you can tell quickly if you're moving in the right direction, so to speak, by just how you feel.
So the way they put it is, you won't know till you die, but honestly speaking, you get immediate feedback. Is that when your frequency is closer to your native state, which is a piece of God, you feel that joy, you feel that peace, you feel that all those wonderful positive states. And the further your frequency drops from that high frequency, the more unpleasant it gets till it's finally downright painful. People that kill themselves, they don't usually kill themselves because they're just too happy. They kill themselves because the emotional psychic pain, they just can't keep fighting with it, and they just give up. But the way it's designed, the system is designed that feeling, unhappiness, is an indication that your frequency is off. And your frequency is off usually to a great extent because of your thoughts, and I think specifically your thoughts in judgment of what's going on in your life or people or yourself or whatever. It's I think the judgment thoughts that do the most damage. So if you have that key, then when you begin, it's best if you can experience a little bit of peace and a little bit of joy, because now you have the contrast, right? If you're just always in psychological pain, then I think it's hard to find a starting point, but the easiest starting point, I think, even for the biggest amateur, is things like gratitude. Just spend a little bit of time being grateful to someone, something for something or someone, ideally gratitude to God, if you believe in God, that I think begins to raise your frequency a little bit and you start to feel a little bit of peace. At least that gives you a baseline. Or if you do something kind to be of some help to somebody and you feel some of that joy and peace, okay, now you start having a baseline. At least you have a baseline now that you're going to move deeper into that or move further away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So once you begin to realize that the feelings are how you get feedback of your frequency, now you can start becoming aware. I think the problem is a lot of times people just push feelings away and just push it into the background. And let's just say you start to do something that's just mean to somebody else because you think they deserve it, and you're feeling that feeling, but part of you is satisfied because you think they deserve it, until you just keep going in that direction. Maybe that feeling just gets worse and worse and worse over time, so pretty soon you're just miserable all the time, right? And then if you misinterpret that, you might think, well, it's because of that other person, and then maybe you double down on your meanness, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. I guess if you've ever gotten into a feud with somebody, that's a classic case where it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. But if you don't really connect that with your thoughts, actions, and judgments, then a lot of times you just figure, well, it's just the circumstances I'm going through that are making me so miserable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and this is classically, I think, the spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual, you know, when somebody comes to Jesus, you know, becomes a Christian, conversion, spiritual conversion.
Mm.
A lot of times what they're doing is they're tuning into a higher frequency. The frequency of forgiveness, frequency of compassion, and through what they hear from Jesus, or maybe experience from people who are truly good Christians and have a loving heart, and they decide to let go of all their other patterns, like a baptism, right?
Mm-hmm.
To let go of all your old patterns and now accept this new operating system. And it can be incredibly powerful, like a whole bunch of weights and pain and everything just drop away at once.
Mm.
Because your belief in the possibility of that, you don't say to yourself, it can't be done. You say, well, I've seen people who've had conversions, and it's possible. Everything can change in a flash. Well, it can. Well, what's actually happening? You're letting go of hate. You're letting go of revenge. You're letting go of all those negative thought patterns that are generating really low frequency, which then you experience as pain.
Mm.
Right? So that's, to a great extent, what that is. You're just dropping in a moment, or in a fairly short period of time, a lot of those patterns that you have utilized all your life thinking that's how to live, and then you're adopting high frequency thought patterns and ways of looking at things, right? So
Yeah.
once you understand the connection between how you feel and your thoughts, so now let's just say you got some baseline where it's better, you feel a little better,
Mm.
and you're feeling a little better, and then all of a sudden you're feeling horrible. Well, back it up. What the heck did you just think? Right? And the classic example I give is, let's just say you attune to divinity in the morning, either through your prayers or a song or whatever does it for you. And you get in your car and you're driving to work, and somebody cuts you off and then flips you off. And you effing right, you flip off, and right, you just instantly activated some of your fairly low frequency patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And you drop your frequency, and of course then all that peace that you're feeling, and it's all gone. But unless you understand it's you're gonna blame it on him. It's like, I was fine to this idiot, that just ruined my whole day. Well, You could have blessed him. You could have saw him as a piece of God, bringing you a catalyst to
Yeah.
change, and it could have raised your frequency. You could have blessed
Yeah.
him and go,
Well, I totally see that. My kids are by far my greatest teacher because I feel like I walk around like unflappable and peaceful and available most of the time,
yeah,
in my experience. But my kids drive me nuts, and I love them to death for sure. But they just get me, man, so consistently.
yeah,
Because I've traced it down on the main cause of my frustration and my anger. It's because of uh, attachment to a particular way. So I'll be attached at this vase that can't be broken. The vase can't be broken, and I'm attached to it. And then I'm like, boys, don't throw the ball right
oh
by the
boy,
vase,
oh
you
boy,
know. And then they're like, okay, do you hear me? Yes. I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm such a spiritual, enlightened parent. I'm talking so
good
well to my
dad.
children, you know. And then immediately they'll throw the ball and break the vase, and
Yeah,
just anger.
yeah,
And so it'll be either from attachment to a thing that I don't want to happen, like a broken vase,
yeah.
or an attachment for them being a certain way because I'm thinking I'm
In
protecting them
relation to you,
in relation to me, or I think they're going to hurt them or hurt each other. Um, any of that, it's an attachment on a certain way, and they don't cooperate.
and also maybe how you related to your dad, and maybe you were a little more respectful when your dad would tell you something. Maybe you might get a whooping if you didn't,
Yeah,
right? So now you don't have that threat hanging over their head, and you expect them still to show their appreciation for your kind, loving ways
that's right.
by being very obedient.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It is a bit of a different
regardless,
environment. Yeah,
regardless of the dynamics, it's catalyst. You got to understand that it's you could say God brings you catalyst or your high self, but it's somehow what's the difference between your high self and God, right? A square mile of ocean or infinite ocean, it's still a lot of ocean,
yeah,
right? So, but just understand it's catalyst. It's always catalyst. And catalyst doesn't just drop out of nowhere. Catalyst is it's the system is set up to bring you catalyst. Catalyst is something, very simply put, that will pull you out of your high frequency state. But it's showing you where your patterns are still not correct. Because if all your patterns were perfect, none of that would matter.
yeah,
Even if somebody is like cutting one leg off at a time, and you can still hold your peace.
yeah.
If all your patterns, all your understanding are perfect, then there would be nothing to catalyze you out of that state.
Yeah, that would just be love. All I would see was love and bliss.
All you'd
And
see is God. That's all
yeah,
there
all I
is.
see is God.
And it's God, and it's perfect. As like my
That's right.
teacher would say, he said, the highest state of all is contentment,
Yeah,
right? So you think, well, when my life is better,
right.
I'll be
When
content.
when my
No,
kids finally obey
when
me.
my kid finally behave and listen to me, I'll be content. No, true spiritual contentment is the understanding that everything is exactly right, and you're neither pushing anything away from you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, or pulling anything into your life. You are perfectly at peace knowing that everything is exactly right. And that's, if you think about that, that's a pretty high state. I'd say Jesus demonstrated some of that is when they're beating him to death and then crucifying him, that he was able to say, you know what, God, forgive them. They don't really understand. So that was his way of trying to find his peaceful center. I mean, he could have easily, and he probably did for a little bit, start feeling a little resentful, you know? I mean, after all, he dedicated his life to helping people. What had he ever done to deserve this?
Right.
Right. But he was able to get it together and look at it in a way that allowed him to hold that peace. He goes, you know what, Father, just forgive them. They don't understand what they're doing. So, I mean, yeah, that's pretty high level. That's pretty high level dealing with that's high level dealing with an incredibly high level of catalyst. But that's the principle he was demonstrating dealing with an extremely high catalyst, right? So, I mean, and that's it. So, my God, if Jesus could get it together under that catalyst, then, and the biggest thing when God hits you with a catalyst is to remember God. I found the biggest thing is to remember it's always God. So as soon as you do that, you're activating a part of the brain, which now gives you a fighting chance to handle the catalyst and turn it into something positive. If you just always react emotionally, right? We just rah, 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 right. Maybe 3-4 hours later, you go, okay, God, you got me on that one. I just completely completely blindsided me with that. Okay. So you make a mental note, okay, and that's for me what helped me tremendously with that was what I'd said in some previous videos is that the first real transformational teaching that I understood from my teacher is the concept that everything is from God for your highest good, which is once again saying that even the difficulty things are actually catalysts to help you grow. And that I had to write that down on a little, cardboard index card, and keep it in my pocket. And every time I would start to lose my peace, I'd have to pull that out and read it until I felt the truth of it again as a feeling. High frequency vibration started to penetrate my mental state. It would quiet me down. Then I'd put the card away and go about my business. But I had to take it out maybe 30 times a day in the beginning till you start to reform neural patterns in your brain. So finally, almost in the moment of the catalyst, I would remember God. I remember one of the acid tests for me was I decided I was always working out, but I decided I should add sprinting to my workout. So no real preparation. I mean, I just decided I should add sprinting. So I'm out on the pavement back of my apartment complex, and I start sprinting. And then I figured, well, I got to crank this up. So I crank it up. Of course, I didn't know how to sprint. Word of warning to people, sprinting is an art to sprinting. So I stretched my leg out further in front of me and immediately tore a hamstring. And I'm at full speed. I'm at close to 100% of what I was able to do. So I tried to catch myself with my other foot, which then tore that hamstring. Now I'm still going about 90% of full speed. So I figured, okay, I'll roll out, right? Because I'm going really fast and I'm going down, but my legs just gave out. So rather than roll out, I just put my shoulder into the pavement. So I dislocated my shoulder. I tore both my hamstrings. So I'm laying on the ground.
Oh my gosh.
And first time in my life, I can't get up. And I just immediately, two things came to mind. The first one, I think it was first, might have been second. I think it was first. First thing is like, okay, God, you know what you're doing. I accept this, Then the next thing, I was plotting my comeback, and I figured it'd probably be about a year to get back where I was 3 seconds ago, right? But that was, to me, that indicated that I'd really changed my neural patterns, that I could remember God that quickly into a heavy catalyst.
Right.
Yeah, but that's it. And as soon as you remember God, that's 2/3 of the battle right there. And you don't have to be happy about the catalyst, but it's like my teacher would say. He said, faith is not trusting that God's going to do it your way, that trusting the way God is doing it is exactly right. Faith is also surrender, which I think is the critical skill for contentment. And you don't have to like it, but you just trust God that he knows what he's doing.
I've broken it down in I would say more mechanical parts to remember God, and it feels all like remembering God to me, but it also seems more mechanical in that I try to relate or notice the watching. So I'll notice the thought or I'll notice the feeling, and that becomes a bridge for me to notice a part of me that is not that thought or that feeling. But it just starts with, instead of being my anger, I'll notice that this anger is happening, kind of thing. And that noticer is also, of course, not necessarily God in totality, but it's certainly a higher frequency when I'm in that place of being able to watch, and it feels a lot better.
Bottom line is whatever works for you, right? And by working for you is, can you not go to the lowest frequency you normally would? Or can you hit the low frequency and bounce back faster?
Yeah.
Right. So the real acid test for you is work with your boys.
Yeah.
Right. In the moment.
I'm certainly not unhooked, but it's definitely working better.
All right, good. So there it is.
And then also, I found it really important to be able to forgive myself, instead of being just adding insult to injury and beating myself over about being, yelling at my kids again over and over, and, just forgive myself.
It becomes a reaction. And this is one of the key components in all real serious spiritual paths is equanimity, evenness of mind, right?
Yeah.
Equanimity, evenness of mind. But how do you achieve evenness of mind? You achieve evenness of mind. One of the ways, for me, the story I told is when my friend who had been Peter had said, David, you cannot not be God. So for me, that was powerful, because otherwise what happens is the pendulum just starts to swing. You lose it, and now you get upset that you lost it. Now you're even more upset that you're upset, so you get more upset, and the pendulum just starts to swing wildly back and forth, right? So that's if you do the graph this way. But if you do the graph this way, this is the ups and downs of life. But for me, one of the things that took the ups and downs out tremendously is, even when I'm blowing it, but I'm still God. And that just slows the pendulum swing way down. So
say how that can be. How can that be that you're still God and be in the middle of what seems like a mess? How does that make sense?
Well, so you just if you know that it's true, and then the mess, it allows you, and I think it's shifting frequency. It's like David Icke saying, I'm infinite consciousness having a human experience. What that actually does when you contemplate it is it raises your frequency. And it raises your frequency. It pulls you away from completely identifying as the human self. And you begin to feel expanded levels of consciousness that allows you then to look down at the human experience a little more as the observer rather than the actor. When your consciousness pulls into your human reality, you're the actor that things are happening to or you're doing, which then locks that illusion in more. But if you can raise your consciousness even a little bit, that pulls you away, where you're activating a little bit of the observer, then you can watch yourself going through whatever you're going through, and you go, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Well, I've had friends that it's really fun to talk with them when they do really stupid stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like horrible things are happening, and it's entertaining as all get out.
Yeah.
However, if it was me, or if it was the same thing in like my marriage, it would be miserable because of the different attachment that I would have.
Yeah.
And so you can have joy in any of these experiences knowing it's not you, or you can share in it in a non-attached way.
But it's, I remember there was a famous baseball pitcher, Catfish Hunter, and he was known for just keeping so cool in the midst of a World Series. And they go, well, how do you manage to stay so cool? He goes, I use the ice ball concept. And you go, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, I realize that in a couple trillion years, the sun's going to burn out, and this whole planet's just going to be a ball of ice. And what does this stupid little game really matter? So what was he doing? He was shifting his perspective, right? That he shifted his perspective so big that this thing that's everything to the average team playing, I mean, like, it's everything. It became nothing. So then he could just do his best. So it's that. I mean, perspective shifting is really what you're doing. You're perspective shifting, which also shifts frequency. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, so for me, a powerful perspective shift is, yeah, I'm still God. You know, because to me, that's the ultimate. It means I'm safe, I'm worthy, I'm lovable, I'm loved by the Creator. I'm still God. So it doesn't matter how badly I F up, I'm still God. So it's like,
Right.
yeah, so what does all this matter? None of this really is even really that real. Yeah, it's not pleasant, you know. I just tore both hamstrings and dislocated my shoulder, you know, but it's like, right.
That must have been God's will, because that's pretty extravagant.
Yeah, it was pretty extravagant. And
Overachiever.
I had to finally have a big male neighbor who was able to help me into my house, and then sat me on the floor where I couldn't get off the floor. I crawled to the bathroom to have to pee about 4 hours later. And my wife came home about 6 that night, and I'm still on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it was like, it's all right. I accept it. Yeah. Now I got to just figure out how to rehab myself. But I mean, you know, contentment. I can't say I have perfect contentment. I'd say I have moments of perfect contentment. But to me, those are like pearls. You know, you just string enough pearls on a string. You got a pearl necklace. Whole thing's pearls, right? So you just work on it, but understanding that catalyst difficulties are opportunities to look at why you shifted your frequency down. What attachment did you have? What attachment to it being a certain way, or people acting a certain way towards you, or you acting a certain way, right? Judgments, like this guy's a SOB, right? You just analyze why that dropped your frequency. It's a tremendous opportunity to repair an incorrect thought pattern that's keeping you tethered to this lower level of reality.
Mm.
As one of the things Nancy Dennison said that I thought was just brilliant. She goes, the infinite creator extends himself out as us, and our vibratory rates have to get low enough in order to incarnate in a physical body. Then the whole trick is to be able to raise your vibrational rate back up high enough to merge back in. Well, that's what this is about. If you got low vibrational thought patterns, it's keeping your vibration from raising enough to integrate back into the Creator, because that's vibrating away. If you got a judgment that these people are this and this, or I'm this and this because I don't forgive myself, or I don't forgive this person, that is a thought pattern that's generating frequency, low frequency, that you have to clear that before you can integrate back into the Creator, or what we call liberation. So this is not just, you know, it might be fun to do once in a while. It's just a little hobby. This is the key. This is the whole thing. But this earthly life is designed to keep hitting you with catalyst, so you either start to clear it, or you die in your freaking misery and you try it again in another life. But you got, we're mortals. You got forever to get it right. And if this solar system burns out, then there's another one. If this universe shuts down, there's other universes.
Get as many tries as you need.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that you've talked about in the Law of One says, the questioner was saying, what's the best way for these entities to heal themselves? They're talking about healing. And their physical ailments. And they said, belief in unworthiness blocks intelligent infinity and in healing. And that's like your Baba quote of the greatest sin.
He said the original sin and the greatest sin is the feeling of being unworthy of God, but I guess feeling unworthy in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We block it ourselves.
Yeah. And what you brought to my mind is what they say in Law of One. They go, the catalyst first appears mental, emotional, spiritual. If you keep pushing it off, it eventually manifests in the physical body as illness. They said most illnesses, unless they're karmic in nature, where you had decided before you were born to take on a certain physical problem in order to help you grow. He said all other illnesses, once you remove that, or correct the problem that the catalyst is showing you, then a lot of times that physical illness will clear up. It's merely a manifestation of low frequency energy activating aspects of your DNA that are bringing about illness.
It's the mechanism. It's working.
Yeah.
To bring it to our attention.
Listen, we're given lessons so you can do it the easy way or you can do it the hard way.
Right.
I heard it put this way: free will does not mean you set the curriculum. Free will means you can decide when you want to take it seriously.
That's good.
Yeah. So if you have patterns that need to be cleared and they keep manifesting in your life over and over and over because you have to clear them, you can keep throwing that lesson on the floor as long as you want, but they're not going to go away. They keep coming back. And eventually you run out of energy and physical time, you die. They still don't go away. Yeah. They're sitting here waiting for you.
The Course in Miracles says this is a course and it is mandatory.
Right.
You're only, it says something like you said, the only choice is how fast you will take it or something like that. Yeah.
So that's, we're all like brats in the first grade. Teacher puts a test on our desk, we throw it on the floor. Like, you can't make me take that test. Like, fine. Next year, everyone else moved on to second grade. You're still in first grade. Well, you can do that till you're 50, but you're going to look pretty stupid sitting in a first grade chair. That's right. Finally realize, you know what? Why am I stuck in this classroom? Because you won't pass your test. Yeah. Is that all? Yeah. So now you can start to, but I mean, you can throw your tests on the floor for an eternity if you want, but you don't get out of first grade till you pass the first grade curriculum.
Right.
But you'll be 50 years old in first grade and you'll be cursing out the teacher and the principal and the whole damn system stinks. It's like, no, dude, it's you. It's you.
Yeah. Increasing discomfort out of your own mercy that you set up. There is increasing discomfort to stay in first grade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, how are you going to wrap this up for us in this session, talking about unhappiness as a catalyst?
Well, just realize unhappiness indicates you got some bad patterns, right? That you need to correct, usually judgments, judging yourself, judging others, right? But I would say just start with the simple things. Just treat others the way you wish to be treated. That's a really, really good start, because even if you're an idiot, you can figure that one out.
Yeah.
What's that? The wooden? Yeah. Oh, yeah. My wife reminded me. Yes, God. Yes, God. She said the Wooden quote, and I'm going, Wooden? Oh, John Wooden said, happiness begins where selfishness ends.
Yeah.
But even so, a lot of people, I'm not selfish. It's like, okay, fine, you're not selfish, but just treat others the way you wish you would like to be treated. That's just a really simple, even if you're just a complete moron, you can start to raise your frequency with that one. Well, how would I want to be treated here? I'd want to be punched in the face and spit on. No. I'd want to be treated with a little bit of love, a little respect, a little bit of patience. Okay, do that then for others.
Yeah.
And that's a start. That will start to give you a baseline where you start to feel a little better. So once you start to feel a little better, notice when you feel worse. What did you just say, think, or do? And correct it if you want to continue to feel better. If you it's like, I'm never going to forgive that person. It's like, okay, all right. Stay miserable the rest of your life.
Slow path.
Keep getting sicker and sicker. It's fine. That's your choice. God's not pulling that away from you. So far be it from me. I really, really want you to be happy and healthy. Be as miserable as you want.
Yeah, well.
It's your choice. It's your choice. Right. And I dare say probably some people have been doing it for thousands of lifetimes. I'm never going to forgive them. It's like, okay, don't.
That's right.
That I'll say one last thing because we can go on forever. Not forgiving someone else is a lot like drinking poison every day, hoping the other person's going to die from it. Yeah, not really effective. But you can do it if you want. Keep see how it goes. Give it a try.
Right. All right, David. Thank you again.
Thank you.